Hi, and welcome to Chapter 10. Chapter 10 is going to be a cool chapter, and that we're going to add some animation and some really cool effects to our website. If we take a look at the finished product, this is what it looks like, but how did it get started? Well, if I do a refresh, we can see what basically happens here. Nice little icon rolls in and spins around, and it's basically the same icon. You saw that it grew, it spun around, and if I come over here to these buttons, you'll see that they shrink and grow. Okay, so they do certain things. So this is basically, if I refresh this guy, so this is what we're starting with. Okay, notice nothing happens. I can click on these things and nothing happens. That icon's just sitting right there. We do have our background that kind of fades from a lighter gray to a darker gray. We basically cover that in previous chapters. So to kind of continue on, so if we take a look, so the very first thing we want to do is we're going to add this nav a hover to our site. So I want to add this. So I come over here and I'm going to go to my style sheet and I'm going to add. Okay, so let's talk about this. So this is nav, so this is basically this is going to affect all nav tags. It's got the a hover, meaning when we basically have an anchor tag that we are hovering over, something's going to happen. Now, when we see this WebKit or MS, what we're basically saying is, hey, these are specific types of things for specific browsers. For example, if I can, let me actually go to this particular chapter. And so basically what it says is this. CSS is always evolving, has an evolving set of rules, even as you build web pages. During the period of new CSS properties and standards developing, browser manufacturers moved cautiously. They don't want to completely commit to CSS properties that may change. Likewise, as they experiment with CSS properties of their own design, so each browser kind of, for example, Mozilla, Internet Explorer, which is Microsoft, Google Chrome, Opera, all of the Safari, so all of those that basically have their own browser, they will go in and create their own styles as well. Browsers make hesitant to claim that they've come up with an agreed standard. To mark a CSS property as experimental, not yet completely agreed upon. A browser manufacturer uses a prefix before each property name. So these are properties that the browser has not accepted, but since they're kind of in an experimental phase, we have to basically use their experimental title to say, yeah, I want to use this, proceed with caution. It's basically what it's saying. So if it has a -WebKit, that means it's used by Chrome, Safari, Opera, and other what we call WebKit based browsers. MOZ obviously is Mozilla, MS is Microsoft or Internet Explorer. So if I have a -WebKit and then some tag with all of the parameters inside of the braces, that applies specifically to Chrome, Opera, and Safari. And then we got Mozilla and we got MS. Now a lot of times you're going to see the same exact phrases. So in this case, input placeholder, placeholder, placeholder. It's basically the same exact thing. Since it's in experimental phase, those browsers say I'm not going to accept it unless you have the experimental tag in front of it. Then I will accept it because it's in beta format. Once it's accepted and basically applied into the CSS3, the people who kind of grant everything, then we will no longer need those experimental tags in front of it. Okay, so I added that. So let me save it and let's see if it does anything. So I come here and do a refresh, and notice that when I hover over it, it just basically snaps big. Okay, remember this guy over here it kind of grows and then turns red. Ooh, grows and turns red. Okay, and when I go away, it fades back to orange. Well, right now, when I basically do it, it just clicks to orange, or clicks bigger, and that's it. So let's take a look and see what it just did. So the WebKit, it's called Transform, and it scales 1.5, which means it's going to grow 1.5 times bigger. So when I hover over it, it just goes boom, makes it scale bigger. That's it. So again, it's experimental, so I have to use WebKit for Chrome and Safari and Opera, and then MS4, and then Transform. So apparently there is a transform parameter, and it's been accepted by Mozilla. So since it's accepted by Mozilla, we don't have to put an MOZ. So that transform basically makes it work. Okay, and that's all that's doing. Okay, so I want to add another style before the nav hover that basically has transition. We'll talk about transition here. What it says is you're instructing the web browser to animate all changes to the CSS property of the A tag. So all A tags are going to have this transition. So let me just add it. It must be added beforehand. So there it is. And I do a save, and I come back over here, and I'll do a refresh, and let's see what happens. Okay, so now what it's doing is it's saying, hey, transition any changes to the A tag. Make sure you basically, it's going to take a half a second to go from whatever it is to whatever it is. So in this case, we want it to scale 1.5 times bigger. It says, hey, go from 1.1 to 1.5 in 0.5 seconds. Okay, so that's basically all it's doing. Now it looks slow, but it's not. It's actually a half a second, half a second, half a second, half a second. So pretty cool stuff. I mean, just those just two items put inside of the CSS, we now have it grow bigger, but it's animated. It basically goes up slow. Seems slow, it's a half a second. We're going to add a background color of red to our A hover. So let me grab that guy and throw that into my hover. So I'm telling it that I want the background color to be red. So let's see what that looks like. Now notice it goes red right away. It turns red right away. Okay. Notice this guy. It turns red gradually. So let's see what features we have to do for that. So we're going to delete the code inside the nav A, and we are going to then add these two items. So it's a WebKit transform, 0.5 seconds, background color, 1s ease into 0.5s. Okay, so it says is wait 1 second before you do this, and then ease in mean basically slowly over 0.5 seconds change the background color. Okay, same thing for and then the transition is so see, apparently Chrome, Opera, Safari, those folks haven't accepted the transform or transition style yet. Still an experimental phase for those folks. We have to put the WebKit in front of it. Okay, so so the transform will basically it will basically take 0.5 seconds to happen, and the background color will take 1 second to transform, or it'll basically wait 1 second, and then it will take 0.5 seconds to transform into red. Okay, so let me save this. I don't see where it changes to red, so let's see. Oh, no, the background color right there is red. Okay, so refresh, and that's where that, again, it waits 1 second, and to transition back, that 1 second apply to there as well. So when I basically hover over that, it waits 1 second, and then it takes 0.5 seconds to transition. Stop, same thing. After 1 second, it basically goes back. So that transition works both ways. Whether I hover or unhover, it's going to basically take place. Red, and then goes back to orange. So now let's add some animation. So let me add this, and then we will talk about it. Okay, so this is basically got the @ symbol. And again, since it's got the WebKit, that means it's an experimental phase. So what we are saying is we want to go use the WebKit transform, and we want to rotate 0, which means where it's currently at. We want to scale to 0.5, so scale smaller. And we want to then go to rotate 720 degrees, which is, what is that, twice, rotate twice, and scale to a full size, okay? So let's talk about this @ symbol. So the @ symbol says this. So if I can find it. Okay, so this is part of the keyframes. We'll talk about keyframes, but basically the @ symbol is basically saying that this is not really a style per se, but it's kind of like a rule where styles are going to utilize it, where we can actually call upon it. Like, say, if you're familiar with programming, it's kind of like a subroutine. I can call a subroutine time and time again. So we're defining this subroutine that we can call and have it execute. I don't know if it's going to apply anything, so let's see what it does here. I'm going to save it and come out here and see what happens. Yeah, because we aren't calling it yet. We've just kind of defined the subroutine. Now we have to call it. So let's see what we have to do now to utilize this web part. It's got the @ symbol, okay? So it'll work in Chrome, Safari, and Opera. If you're using Firefox Internet Explorer, as your main browser, we're going to place the WebKit with keyframes with the keyframes. So again, so this is that keyframes, basically saying this is a subroutine we've created. So I'm going to then add this .logo. So if you notice now, it basically is calling. So this is the name of the item. So this is the class we are using. So this is going to affect this class right here. And so now when I basically say logo, when I'm calling this logo, it's going to basically call this subroutine. And it basically says make it happen over 1 second. Okay? So it's going to go from small to big. So let me save it. And let's see what happens. So refresh. So you saw it spin twice, 720 degrees, and it went from small to big. Let me refresh that again, watch. So it spun around twice, and then basically grew from 0.5 to 1 over 1 second. Okay? So pretty cool, man. I really like this chapter because it adds a lot of neat features to your website. And it really, as you see, it really doesn't take a whole lot for it to happen. So CSS really very powerful. So I should say the new CSS3 very powerful and gives us a lot of things to make our websites really look slick. Okay, so to continue on, so now we are going to go add this left 120% to left 0. So let's talk about what just happened here. So what it says is go to the left. I know it's basically go from one side to the other. I'm trying to remember what the 120% is doing. Is it saying go away from the left 120% and then come back to 0? I believe that's what it says. So originally it's here. We're going to basically say go from the left 120%. So it's on the right hand side now, and then basically come back to 0%. So I come over here and now I do a refresh, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So, but you'll notice it was rotating while it was shifting from one side to the other. Let me show what I mean by that. So it was spinning and growing at the same time. Okay. Now if we look over here at this guy, you'll notice that it basically kind of moved over and then it spun. It looks like it spun opposite as it grew. So it looks like we're going to add some more to this. So let's see what else we're going to do. This is here you begin the logo's position to the right of the banner, and so again to the right, so 120% off of left and come back to 0. So change the code you added in step 4 to look like this. Okay, so I'm just going to grab everything and let's talk about it. So here's what it says. We want to start at 120% off of left, basically over to the right. We're going to start at 0 rotation, so meaning upright, and it's basically half size bigger. At 50%, I want to rotate 720 degrees, still at half size, and go to the left. Okay? Then, so think of it, we're going to do this in 3 steps. First step, we're going to start here, and then basically go to here, and then go to here. So we're going to basically do a rotate back to 0, scale 1. So this last part is just basically making sure we're upright and full size. So let's save that and see what that is going to do. I think it gets us closer to what the other one is doing. Let me resize this. Okay, so it's exactly what it did. So it's going pretty fast. If we remember this guy, if I click on it, see how slow it goes, and we can actually see it spinning. Well, this guy here, when I do the same thing, so again, it starts at one position, okay, scrolls across the screen, staying at 0.5, then it rotates and basically comes forward. So we're going to add this 3 seconds to our logo. So I'm going to change that to 3. Let me save it. Let's see what happens now. I think that's going to slow it down. So I refresh. That's all it took. We just slowed the whole process down. Instead of doing 1 second, we did 3 seconds. What if I change that to 5? Let's see what happens if I change that to 5. It's too slow now. Let's try 4. That's a pretty good speed. We'll go back to 3, but just realize you can kind of play around with that to see, yeah, what works, what really does work. And 3, again, we want to make sure that we're not going too slow, or the people viewing this web page are going to basically fall asleep. So pretty good. So again, we had it slide over, go from 120% to 0, and then rotate, spin out, and grow bigger. Okay. So let's go ahead and add, because that's only going to work for Chrome, Safari, and Opera. Let's make sure we have this working for all of the other browsers as well. So I add this, which is the same exact code, except now it just says Keyframes logo. Do I want to add that where? Do I want to add that inside there? I don't think so. Yep. So now it will work for basically all of the browsers. Now again, realize when I say all of the browsers, think it as the latest version of browsers. This may work for previous versions, but most likely it's really designed for the latest and greatest browser versions that are out there. So again, does it still work? Yep. So if I were to take this same website now and copy it, so let me do this real quick. I'm going to go ahead and transition that back so that it's gone. I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to plug this into Internet Explorer, and let's see if that WebKit basically works. So look, so let me refresh. Ah, it worked. Wow. Let's see if it works for Firefox. Let me plug that address in there. Boy, it works. So that keyframe, well, did I do a save? No, I did a save. Okay. So apparently the WebKit does kind of bleed over to others. It probably sees this transform. So let me do a redo, put Keyframes logo in there, and again, that should still work. Yep. Does it work in IE still? Yep, still works in IE. Okay, so good deal. So now when I come out here and hover over these guys, you notice that they grow larger, they slowly turn to red, and when I go away, they slowly turn back to orange. And our nice little graphic does spin around. Okay, we can add this new line to our logo. Because remember, that WebKit is just for, again, apparently it works for all of them though. But just to make sure that we're covered, we go ahead and just say animation, because again, animation is accepted by all of the other browsers but Chrome, Safari, and Opera. At some point, once those browsers accept it, we will get rid of this WebKit. It won't be needed anymore. Okay, so kind of a short tutorial. Again, read the chapter, get to know what those things are doing. Realize that each browser has its own version of the beta stuff, so you have to kind of make sure you keep in line with that type of thing. But really have fun with this. Again, if you have any questions or any issues, give me a call.